I'm sorry, guys. Every episode, as we're getting ready to do these, somebody always says some snarky, funny remark, and so you get us laughing. Rod will say
it's usually me, and I do it on purpose.
Rod said he was going to comb his hair differently today.
Can you tell I parted it on the right side?
That's right. So welcome to another episode of the RoadFS Detail Memoirs Business 101 series with, of course, our man, the myth, the legend, Prentice St. Clair. I'm Jody.
And I am still Rod, no matter how you look at it.
He's still Rod, man. So, dude, we are super excited to have you on. It's hard to believe we are in the middle of February into 2022. And, you know, there's been so many amazing things happening as we have talked to customers, both at Mobile Tech Expo, just one-on-one. And I'm telling you, people are really having a great experience with this series. So I want to invite everybody to go out to the YouTube channel. There's 6 others prior to this, so please go out, like, share, and subscribe, most important, so that you can get notified when we do one of these. So with that said, Prentice, I mean, you have been everywhere, training extraordinaire at the P&S Detail Academy. Of course, you're running your own Detail Academy and Detail in Progress. So you're a busy dude, and we appreciate you taking the time to do this series with us. So what's in store for today on our Business 101 series?
Yeah, well, I thought we'd talk a little bit about customer records. And, you know, it's important to keep information on your customers. And then how can you utilize that information to increase your profitability and make sure that your shop stays busy?
Yeah, I like the way you put that, because I think a lot of times when we think customer records, we think a closet full of boxes and shelves of printed receipts and everything that we've ever done for that customer, you know, for tax purposes. And
you mean like this?
Like that right there, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And actually, we have an experience that we use a lot of times when we're talking with potential clients, or when we're putting on a presentation at MT, where I went to a client's location and they literally, a client walked in and said, "Oh, I've come in here for years," and they went to a filing cabinet and they started going through, which looked like the cards in an old library. They pulled out a little 5 recipe card and they had notes written on it, and just the action of trying to go through those recipe cards after 15,000 clients is insane.
That's true. Unless they're alphabetically arranged, it's not too bad. But, yeah. And I will, full disclosure, years ago, you know, I came from a corporate background back in '94 when I started this business full time. So I had some experience with a lot of Microsoft products. So I started out using Excel to put my customer data on. And even though most of it is still on Excel, it's still very handy. I get a lot of use out of that for sure. But
absolutely,
you know,
and I think that's just
more modern ways to do it these days. But I think the main message I want to get across today is you've got to be recording this stuff. I don't care if you're brand new and you don't got any money. You got to have a notebook and you got to write down some things like the customer name, their cell phone number, their email if you can get it, the address, the year, make, and model of the vehicle. What did you do to the car today? It can be as simple and stupid as that. And then that eventually is going to get loaded into a computer. And then eventually you're going to be able to use that information, perhaps even with some mobile software that'll allow you to stay in touch with that customer.
Right. But I think the main thing you're getting at there is you have to retain that information somehow. And what, you know, people are like, well, why do I care? Well, it's really important to be able to look back at the last thing you did, or
yes,
even special little things about the client. Part of retaining a client is understanding them and relating to them. And when you have 1 or 2 clients, if you're doing work for just 1 or 2 people, that's easy. But when you have 15,000 or more, you know, to know that Joan likes a certain scent versus another scent. Don't ever put vanilla in Joan's car because she hates it and it brings up a core memory of whatever. You have to have those notes, and that's what's important about clients. We have a client that, you know, was doing some work, and their client has a real love affair with giraffes. And so this guy really literally has notes in there that talks about be very careful with the client's giraffes. It's a big deal. They do some in-home stuff. But that's, getting to know your clients and relate to them is where you get that personal relationship.
Dude, by the way, who has more vertebrae, humans or giraffes?
Ooh,
that's question. Dude, I think people would assume the giraffe because their neck is so long, but it's probably us all squished.
It's equal. It's equal.
Oh, really?
Same number of vertebrae.
Interesting.
Wow, there you go.
Interesting facts.
That's right. Fun facts on Business 101.
Yeah, and so, I consult with a lot of detail businesses, and, a lot of folks who have been seeing this podcast have been contacting me, and we've been spending some time on the phone, which is great. I love doing that. We get so much work done just by talking on the phone sometimes. For example, one fella in Utah called me, and he's running around washing cars all day long, and he's trying to figure out, why he's not making enough money. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to have a shop and I want to do ceramic coatings. Well, then you got to figure out how to stop doing car washes. And we figured that out. And he's got a shop, and he's now, marketing more towards ceramic coatings. Anyway, a little aside there, but, I do talk to a lot of people on the phone, and it's not uncommon to have somebody who's brand new, just starting, and they're just starting to make a dent in their area. And they really are taking notes on the person's name and phone number. And I even talk to people who don't take any information down. For example, I had a conversation the other day, and the guy said, business is a little bit slow. And I said, well, you need to pick up your book of customers, whether that's on software, in a notebook, or on the computer, or whatever, and just make phone calls. Just start calling people. Just go down your list of people and call, and make it a friendly conversation. Is there anything I can do for you? I want to make sure everything's okay with your car. Looks like we worked in your car a year ago, 6 months ago, whatever. And it's amazing what happens when you start doing that. But then that person that says, oh, well, I don't have any phone numbers. Well, you just blew it. And really, it's just a notebook. If you're just starting, it's just a notebook. I can't encourage you enough. You've got to capture that information however easily or fancily you want to do it.
So from your perspective, what information is really critical?
Well, obviously, the first and last name of the customer. If you also deal with a spouse or perhaps a front office person, you should have that information as well. The cell number is going to be huge because you can also use that for texting. Email, if you can get it, for sure. Yep. And, the address where the vehicle typically is, and the mailing address, if that's different. Those are important things to have, because sometimes a simple postcard mailed out to several hundred of your customers can generate all kinds of phone calls back to you. So,
right. And to your point,
and then there's other things you can get. If you happen to know their birthday, because you can capture that birthday information. And then what I like to do is send out a card with a picture of their vehicle on the birthday card. Happy birthday, here's your car. Because most people, believe it or not, do not have a picture of their own vehicle. And you take a picture of it when you're done detailing it and it looks spectacular. That's a really cool thing to send them later on.
That's cool.
And then one more thing that I like to, this is just my own personal, I really enjoy figuring out where people came from. So,
yes.
And this is also a marketing strategy as well, especially if you're spending money somewhere on some kind of marketing. Even if you're not spending money, if you've got your free Yelp page and your free Google business listing and your free Nextdoor listing and whatever other free listings you can have, or Instagram, or is it coming from Facebook, or is it coming from TikTok, whatever it's coming from, you got to know where those people are coming from. And then you can look at that tally, but again, whether it's on a computer or whether you've just got it in a notebook, and you can count up, where are my customers coming from? Where should I spend time in my advertising, in my marketing? So that's important too. And then, if it's word of mouth referrals, write down or enter, I've got a column in my Excel sheet that says, where did that person get referred? Who were they referred by? Was it by a specific person? Was it through a business networking group? I know where everybody came from in my book of, right now it's about 1,500 people. Remember, it's just me doing the work, just me and one employee. So it's real. I have a real small, close to home operation, and that's the way I want it. But those 1,500 people are very high quality customers. and I know where every single one of them came from. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that is really, really important. And you've been working with a local customer of ours that has really dialed that in using RoadFS.
Yeah, and this is using software, obviously, and Prentice is right, however you're doing that. But using software, you can tie that in and actually track the dollars and know which referral sources or advertising is actually bringing you in money, and that's where you want to spend your money. And if you take a step back from that kind of automated process, you're just starting out or something, Prentice, you can even take your spreadsheet and very inexpensively have a subscription to MailChimp and upload those customers and send out an electronic mailer through MailChimp or some of these other constant contact. So there's definitely ways to do that at whatever level you're at, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
And again, if you don't have the information, guess what? You can't do anything with it.
You cannot do that. And so a lot of the newer softwares will do automatic reminders and callbacks and things where they can ping your customers for repeat business. That doesn't replace anything that you're talking about. That doesn't replace sitting there and going through your contact list and sending out, hey, it's Valentine's Day. Get your 50 days actually, close to Valentine's Day. And so it's like you get your, Valentine's Day special or whatever it is, Arbor Day, or I don't care what your specials are. The only way you can do that is what Prentice is saying is if you track that information. And then the vehicle information is just as important. Yeah. Because at the time of the year if you do boats, then there's a certain time of the year when you want to market to boat owners. If you've got sports cars and convertibles, you want a certain time of the year you want to do that. So organizing your data in whatever method you have, you still have to have it organized so that you can then get the benefits of that
use
data.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's only as valuable as what you can do with it after you've collected it.
Right. And don't assume that you're going to use it one way or another. Just collect as much of it as you can. One of the great things you can do with the software, and you can even do it just on your own if you don't happen to have software, is scheduling software. Is you can send a thank you text with links to your review pages, your reviewable pages.
Yes.
Yep.
Say, hey, if you really like the work, would you mind clicking here and writing a review for Yelp or Google or whatever it is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people ask it all the time. They're like, how do I get reviews? Well, you have to ask for them.
Yeah.
You have to ask for them.
Well,
you can do it in a very, very, casual way. Just, hey, we really enjoyed working on your car. Thank you so much. If you were really happy with what you liked, if you wouldn't mind clicking here, don't make it a big deal. And certainly also, if you weren't happy with something, please call us right away because we want to take care of it.
Right.
Well, and I think one of the areas that, especially new guys struggle with, or gals, is they're like, are my marketing efforts effective? Right?
Yes.
And if you're not recording how and where and when somebody came to you to be at that very first contact point, how are you ever going to know where to spend more of your energies? Right. So and you could have a whiteboard of a tally. How did you hear about us? Or in our, with our software, you can actually record every single little aspect of how people found you, and then run an actual report on actual dollars that were converted based on that lead source. And so whatever you're doing, you need to be able to track that data, especially on the marketing side.
Yes.
So
really, really important. And finding out if you're getting a return on investment, that ROI on your advertising. I've been around since 1994. We didn't even use wax; we just used spit. But anyway, in those early days, people would try to get me to spend money on print advertising or some kind of advertising on grocery carts in the store or the back of coupons. And I tried a couple of those things. And what I found was when I spent money on advertising, I didn't get very much return on investment because I kept a record of it. There were a couple that worked okay. But really what I decided over the years is this is just for me, that's not for everybody, but for me, it didn't make sense to spend money on that advertising. But the only reason I was able to come to that conclusion and then save a lot of money over the years is I kept a record of it. Now, so if you're the guy or the gal that's out there and, well, that's okay. I kind of have a feeling about, where my customers are coming from. Yeah, everybody has a feeling, but when you start marking it down and taking the data, and this is from the psychological research background that I have, then you really find out what's going on. And you might find out that you're spending $100 a month on whatever advertising campaign, and it's not giving you the return on investment that going to a networking group once a week gives you. Right.
The other thing is the vehicle information. If you're not studying that vehicle data to look at the types of cars that you're working on and which ones are bringing you in the most profit and the services you're doing. We see a number of people that have 15 or 20 service offerings. And when you start looking at the data, they're only really doing 5 or 6 things. And the things that are bringing them in the most money, like your guy that said, I want to have a shop and do ceramic coatings, then why are you providing, car washes? So you really need to analyze the data from your current customers and see what's bringing you in the most stuff. If you're getting a ton of referrals for interior work, then maybe you should focus on some interior work. And the only way to do that is to track that from the very get-go. I got a car, I did this service, this is the year, make, and model of it, and then look at that and really decide where you're at. I use Diana Balboni all the time because she's, her statement to us was, I'm a little gal and I'm not going to work on big trucks. So you got to track that stuff. If you want to work on little cars, if you want to be the specialty guy, my uncle all the time used to tell me when I was growing up, you need to be a Mercedes mechanic because you can charge hundreds of dollars an hour to do that. And I didn't want to be a Mercedes mechanic, but in that case, if you did, you track what you're actually working on and what's bringing in cash.
Right. So along those lines, this idea of what kind of work do you want to be doing? Yeah. Okay, number one, that's what you need to be marketing and putting out on Instagram, not pictures of cars you just washed if you don't want to do washing. If you want to do ceramic coatings, then you want to put pictures of cars you just ceramic coated and hashtag, ceramic coating your city, that type of thing. But then, tracking the kinds of vehicles you're working on, let's say you start getting a whole bunch of Teslas in a row. Well, that means you should probably do ceramic coating Tesla as your hashtag. Okay, because they seem to be popular. People want that in your area. Whatever your area, whatever the car is that they like there, that's what you want to market. But if you don't have that information, and again, if you're just going on a feeling, versus, actual data, if you're in an area with a lot of lifted trucks and you don't mind working on lifted trucks. Sorry, Diana, I know I get it. I don't like it's just too big. But anyway, lifted trucks. And then you figure out, well, how do I market to these lifted trucks folks? Or a funny thing about San Diego, there seems to be a lot of Porsches here. I don't know why, but there's a lot of Porsches in San Diego. So I get a lot of Porsches. So I market directly toward Porsche owners. But the only reason I know that is because I keep data on it. So,
and because the Porsche experience is right there in SoCal, so that's
Yes, that's true. Another important thing you can keep on your records, whether it's again writing in a notebook or writing on your calendar or putting it in your computer or putting it in your software, your scheduling software, is how often does the customer want to be serviced? Very important. I just recently had a customer that called me. I think the last time we saw her was about 20 years ago. And she just happened to call and say, hey, I just saw you're still in business. I just inherited my dad's 77 Mercedes 450 SL and I want to get it cleaned up. Oh, what a great car to work on. And we made it beautiful. And I said, so, I got with her and said, is this going to be parked outside, inside? She said, a little of both. I said, well, we should probably get with you about every 6 months or so and put another coat of sealant on it. And she said, would you contact me on that? Great. I can set that up in my software and get it out.
Exactly. And that's, I think that's kind of the key, is that interaction right there, because now you're not having to rely on marketing. You're relying on your data that you've been collecting for 20 years to bring dollars in. And that's one less thing that you have to worry about, is your tracking of your clients and their needs for 20 years is bringing you customers back in. And that's what everybody wants, is that, quote, passive income that just comes to you.
Yeah. I'll tell you another one. This is an interesting little tip. I keep all my texts. You have options to delete your text after a certain number of whatever length or years or months. I just keep them because I'll get a random text from somebody that I haven't seen in 3 years. And I just scroll back through, okay, who is this? What did we do? In fact, there's a Navy SEAL that's done a lot of work with me over the years. He just texted me, hey, hope you're doing well. I'm going to send my commanding officer to you. I'm like, heck yeah, man. He's probably got a couple of nice cars. But I scrolled through that text and went back through and was able to figure out, okay, so this is Joe, and Joe, did these kinds of things with me. So these are the kinds of things like he's probably talking to his commanding officer about. So when he calls me, we can have a legitimate conversation.
See, and I would have assumed if I got that text that I was in trouble. I'd have been like,
right.
Oh, crap. Somebody's commanding officer's about to...
I'm sending you to my commanding officer.
That's right. Oh, no. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, the thing about it is keeping a text message, you always have a record because somebody could come back to you and say, hey, I contacted you and told you I was available Thursday, and you scheduled me for Friday. And you could look back at the text and say, it actually says the 1st, which is a Friday, so I assumed it was a Friday. Let me change that for you. But then you've always got that... I don't want to always rely on the CYA, but it's also it's covering your ability to remember. We can only have so many things that we remember, and especially if you've been in business for a long time, you start forgetting certain things about certain clients and their cars and their needs. And so having some form of a backup of that data will help you. Things like thickness of the paint on a car. You need to be tracking that. You need to have that in your system because, man, the time that you come in and you're like, oh, this is Prentice's car. I've worked on this before. I know this one's good to go. But you forget that last time there was a repaint on the passenger fender and it's only got, 0.0 fill in the blank, and you grab the polisher. It's really simple to just track that data and know. Yeah,
that's good. Like notes on the vehicle. So that's an important one. If you're working on somebody that has their cars polished often, how much paint are you taking off? You could also have, the mom taxi with all the pet hair in it, and remembering, oh yeah, we had to charge $50 extra on this one last time because it was just full of sand and pet hair and Cheetos and half a donut and
melted crayon.
With the donut wasn't too bad, but anyway, keep those notes so that when they call and say, "Hey, I need another service," you can call that up and say, "Okay, so I need to make sure that they're aware I may have to charge extra for the interior if it's like it was last time."
Right,
so,
right. And the thing about that is then you meet and exceed customer expectations. Somebody that comes in and goes, why do I care about any of that? Because you are meeting and exceeding your customers' expectations. And you can write down special notes that remind them of things. Hey, the last time you were in, we talked about doing a ceramic coating. Did you want me to go ahead and schedule you for that? Because we're just doing a maintenance wash. It's so much easier to bring in business from an existing customer than it is to grab a new one. You need to take the notes, track the data, so that you can maintain what you're doing.
And you keep in a personal touch because they realize that you're actually taking the time to take notes on their vehicle and what special things you needed to do. So you bring that up again the next time, and that's going to be really good. A funny story about remembering things. Back in the early days of running around all over San Diego County and doing car washes, that was in the day when I didn't have a smartphone. So I had all my customers' names and numbers printed out from my spreadsheet. And then also I had a lot of them memorized. It's amazing how many phone numbers I had memorized back in those days. Probably 100, 200. You'd say somebody's name, you'd say Harry Copeland. I know what Copeland's number is, no problem. And how long we've been together and where I got them from. But when you start to collect a lot of customers, if you're a high volume shop, forget it. You've got to have some kind of way to track all that information because you're going to have, hopefully, you're going to have so many customers coming and going that you're going to lose that personal touch. And I think that personal touch is really important. When I just saw my dentist today, I've known him since 1997. And, we're friends and we can talk about stuff off the cuff a little bit if we need to. Involving my mouth. My teeth are good, by the way. And that, I think people really appreciate that personal touch. But if you're not keeping that information down somewhere and tracking it and going over it once in a while, then you're going to lose that personal touch really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is, a lot of people downplay the importance of that. And there's certain situations you can. I mean, if I owned a corner car wash and my clients were just literally drive in and self-serve, I probably wouldn't gather as much data on them. I'd still want to gather data on them because you can market to them, but I really wouldn't need that personal touch, right? I mean, it's a car wash and somebody's coming through. But if you are doing personalized services for anyone in any industry, this is so personal. I mean, people are so personal about their vehicles and their likes and their needs and everything that you need to track this sort of stuff because, you forget one little thing. All of a sudden I forgot that I was giving Jody a military discount, and that's personal to them. The next time he comes in, if I don't do that and he's got to remind me for the third time, all of a sudden his perception is this guy doesn't know me.
It could be something as stupid as wiping off the excess tire gloss when you're done so that it doesn't sling up the side of the car, right? Yep. That can be in your notes for that person, whether it's handwritten or it's in the software, so that you remember to do that silly, stupid little thing because their white truck looks really bad with that kick up running down the road, and they don't like that. So, and just as an example, years ago, I put together these invoices so that I could collect information from the customer. Now this is Microsoft Word. It's pretty simple stuff. And it's got enough information on there that I can collect that while I'm intaking the customer. All right. Again, you can do that on software too. But if you're relatively new and you don't have something as simple as a good invoicing system or a good receipt like this, in fact, I'll tell you what, if you need a receipt, I'll send you this file on Microsoft Word and you can customize it to what you need. So just contact me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Is that people don't need to be worried that if they can't start on day one. I mean, it's like anybody that starts. You see all these things on the form. Well, I don't have enough money to buy an extractor. Well, how long have you been in business? 3 days. Well, don't worry about buying an extractor. Go do something that brings in some cash, and that will come. You build up your business as you go. I mean, you can't expect to start on day one. And somebody was like, I'm starting a detailing business. I'm going to spend $1 million on the shop. I got all this stuff in place. I got a lift. No. Start by getting some clientele, looking at your area, figuring out what it is you want to do, and then you can expand that out. The most successful detailer in the world, whoever that is, I'll bet you that person or persons did not start out on day one with every piece of equipment, every piece of knowledge, every piece of software that they needed to run their business the way it is today.
Prentice did. He was like this in 1991.
Yeah, well, that's because, he's Prentice.
Wait, what did I do?
Yeah. So you need to start with whatever you can, but the key, I think, is start by collecting the data on your clients and retaining that data and then using it to your advantage to help you succeed.
Yes.
So I have a question for you, because I think a lot of, especially newer business owners, they ask the question, how long do I need to keep customer records?
Oh, I keep them forever.
Yep.
Yeah. You've been in business a long time when your customers start dying off.
Yeah. I do the
I've had a few of those where I actually have to write deceased in their information.
Wow.
You keep it forever. That information is super valuable, because I was at a client's location here in town, and they do some different services. They do interior repairs. They do boat interior repairs. And a client came in and said, you worked on this boat about 10 years ago, and I want the same foam because I really like how it feels. And they were able to go back into their records. Now they use our software, they use RoadFS, but they were able to go back in the records and see what foam they used as far as the thickness and the density, and they were able to match it and say, oh, by the way, there's new foam out in the last 10 years, and look at the difference between this one and this one. And they actually upgraded because of the data that they had from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it just start tracking it. It makes more sense than anything.
Yeah, and then when you've got that data, there's all kinds of interesting things you can do with it. For example, at the beginning of the shutdown, I was a little bit panicked about where I was going to get business from, and I decided to send out a postcard to everybody in my immediate area, and a postcard talking about disinfecting the interior of the car. And so I was able to look in my software and look up the 3 or 4 zip codes that are right in my neighborhood, and send out postcards just to those people. And it was pretty easy to do because I had all the information right there. So that's the kind of thing you can do. So if you're in a situation where you're running out of appointments, or running low on appointments, you can grab that data and figure out who's going to be the most interesting people to market to. For example, maybe you need to market to the people who haven't seen you in a year. All right. Maybe not the people that haven't seen you in 20 years like Margie did, but it still worked. I still knew her. But, maybe those people that haven't been around for a year and a half, you can target that information if you've got it written down the last time you did their vehicle, and then talk to them, text them, email, whatever it is that you do, or direct mail to encourage them to come back to you. And I'll tell you, this one thing has helped me so many times over the years. When business gets slow and I'm actually worried about booking appointments, is I get that book out and I start making phone calls, direct phone calls to people. You can do the texting, the emails and all that, but sometimes a direct phone call really makes a big difference. And it's this, I happen to believe in God, but this is the one metaphysical thing that I believe in, that you put it out to the universe will answer you. And every single time I've done that, and I've had enough years to do it many, many times, I get through to 15, 20 phone calls and people start calling me out of the blue. All right. Because you're putting out that message, I need work. So, and of course, some of the people will call back, and a very common response upon getting that phone call, they say, I'm so glad you called me. I lost your information. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I lost your business card or whatever it was. And so then you've got another booked appointment. So
that's awesome.
It works, baby.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is once you get in a habit of doing this, you're going to find all kinds of ways to use that data to help you build your business, maintain your business, grow your business, whatever it is. I mean, we could probably come up with 24 different ways you can utilize this customer data in a very, very professional manner to bring business in the door, as opposed to just, the yellow pages or your local SEO guy that wants to charge you $1,500 a month to change a couple of words. And all those things are valuable. I'm not trying to ding on those guys that do that, but this is a very easy way that you can control yourself. And you can go out and get your own stuff, and it doesn't take a lot of time. This is actually saving you time in the long run.
No. So every time I pick up a new customer, I take the time to go on the computer and enter in all the information. It takes 3 minutes at the most, at the very most. Yes. But here's the thing too. All those variables, all those columns of information that we've already spoken of, and here's one more I'm going to give you. What's the first time they did business with you? Date and year. Yes. That's really interesting. Month and year, because you can go back to your 10-year anniversary with that person and say, hey, I've been taking care of your car for 10 years. Thank you so much. Those kinds of little things. But you have all that data, even if it doesn't even make sense to you at the moment. Like, why would I collect the year, make, and model of the car? I don't even know if they're going to have that car next year. What? You never know 5 years down the line, 4 years, 10 years down the line, when you might say, oh, I need that column of information from those people so I can do a special mailing to all those people. You just never know. So start collecting it now. Again, even if you're just writing it down in a notebook, if you're just starting out, you've got to have that info.
Right.
What other key things do you think are really important in regards to customer records? Oh,
well, I kind of feel like we hit on the big ones. Yeah. Cell number, email, addresses, year, make, and model. Where did they come from? How did they find out about you? That's an important one. When did they first start doing service? Let me ask you, what do you think, guys?
I really appreciate just when I look at information about my customers, I also keep information about prospects. And I think a lot of times business opportunities miss an opportunity because, I didn't do business with them. Well, just because they're not doing business with you today doesn't mean that they're not going to do business with you tomorrow. Maybe they came in, they got an estimate, and they're like, maybe I don't want to do that right now. Or I need to check with the wife, and then they get busy and they forget. If you didn't collect some initial information at the beginning about this prospect, there's no way for you to circle back around and go, hey, man, I just want to thank you for dropping by.
Right.
Did you want to schedule a follow-up so that we can take care of that for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could call them up. Maybe you know what it means when they say, I got to talk to my spouse about this. You know what that means.
Yeah.
It costs too much. It costs too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, the really sarcastic response to that, and of course you never say this, but the really sarcastic response is, what, you can't make decisions on your own? Oh.
Right. Yeah. No. So to answer,
But anyway, but that's important. And maybe that customer that says, yeah, I don't know, it seems like an awful lot. I got to call around it. And I tell people, hey, I respect that. I totally get that.
Yes.
We're all on a budget. I'm not the cheapest guy. I'm never going to be the cheapest guy in town. And I totally get that. And I'll even tell them, hey, look, you can go down to the car wash and get some express detailing that might do exactly what you need, and you'll be happy with that.
Yes.
But a lot of times what I'll do is keep that. Thank you for bringing that up. Keep that name and phone number at least, and call them up maybe in 2 weeks and say, just checking back, were you able to get that handled?
Yeah.
And who knows? There's been a couple times when people say, I didn't, and I've been going back and forth. I'm glad you called. I'm just going to bring it into you.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe just for fun, you give them a 10% discount. I don't know.
yeah.
But,
So the other one, in answer to your question, what I think is important, and granted, I'm a big data nerd, so I think the important thing is for you to look at these things and look at the trends. If you've had a customer for 10 years, they most likely have gone through several vehicles. Look at the trends in those vehicles to see where they're at in their life. If they're constantly replacing the minivan with a new minivan and a new minivan, but did they start out with a 10-year-old car, and now they're a 4-year-old car, and now they're a brand new car, and last week they just bought a brand new Porsche? That is a situation where you can start marketing to that person in a different way. It's just trends with your client to keep up with them and keep up with the times, if you will. If you've never offered ceramic coatings and this year your goal is to go out and get some training and become ceramic certified, start looking through your client data and picking out the most likely clients to give you a ceramic coating, and then go market to them.
As opposed to just marketing to everybody.
You market to a targeted audience. If you're a boat guy or gal, you market to the people that are most likely to have boats. So I think that's a key to this data is, how do you kind of digest that data and what do you do with it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's super cool. Obviously, as we've discussed, customer information, data about your customer, who they are, what they do, what they're interested in, their car, all that key stuff really is not only critical for you to make business decisions, but it's also a phenomenal way for you to connect. And when you can connect with your customer, you build loyalty. And that's really what it's about, right? We want to be in business for the long haul. And if you don't have the data to best serve them, you're going to cripple yourself. You're going to cut your legs off at the feet, So make sure that you're doing something. And we want to thank you, Prentice. Obviously, every week, about once a month or every 6 weeks, we get together to do another episode of Business 101 series. If you guys have not connected with Prentice, you need to go connect. Detail Academy, Detail in Progress, the PNS Detail Training Center. The guy's everywhere. So, and if you for some reason can't find him, call me and Rod, DM us. We're more than happy to connect you with them. And of course, Rod and I are always up for a good conversation about your business, how we can help and grow. And any final words for you?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I have a final word.
Yes.
Remember that if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. And it's much easier to get your previous paying customers to come back than it is to find new ones. So,
amen to
those
that.
databases.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for those that tune in every week. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time just next week. See ya.